The Metro Police Force in D.C. does not have that power here, but could, under the Insurrection Act, send in the National Guard into the city of Chicago. The president was, well, he called you an incompetent man yesterday. He said the same thing about the governor. Talk about your feelings on what the president had to say about crime rates in D.C., in Chicago, how that doesn't necessarily jive with the numbers that we're getting from the police forces from both cities, and your thoughts on the president using the Insurrection Act as a catalyst to bring in the National Guard into the streets of Chicago.
Well, it's clear that the President of the United States of America is very much interested in insurrections. He led one. And I remember a time in which we had presidents who declared war on poverty. This president has declared war on poor people. And he's doing it by way of taking away, Medicaid, taking away SNAP, literally taking away food. He has gone after the Department of Public Education, defunding critical resources to our cities. And he is literally plundering our cities as we speak. And I am quite disturbed, quite frankly, by the unhealthy style of governance where he has shredded our Constitution. And, if the president was sincere, he would not be declaring war on poor people and going after homeless people. That's a much different posture than what we're taking in the city of Chicago, right? We've expanded our shelter beds by 126%, put $40 million into our shelter system to improve them. We're on pace to build 10,000, affordable units by the time my first term ends. And we're making critical investments to drive violence down on the city of Chicago. Homicides are down 30%, shootings and shooting victims down almost 40%. So it's evident that the work is working. And so, as disturbing as it is, we can't not lose sight on what we are facing. And President Trump shifting the highest concentration of wealth into the hands of the ultra-rich. It's why here in Chicago, we're moving to challenge the ultra-rich to pay their fair share in taxes, right? You have a tax burden of working people in the city of Chicago about 19 and a half, almost 20%, where for the rich, it's about 11.5%. For the ultra-rich, they almost pay no taxes, right? And so my focus is going to always be to protect people of this city and to build the safest, most affordable big city in America. And though we take these threats seriously, we will not bow down or succumb to his tyrant rage.
Have you had conversations with public safety, with the superintendent, on the possibility of that happening?
Well, he doesn't have the legal authority to do it, right? So let me just be very clear. He does not have the legal authority to do it as
right. I'm not talking about the police force. I'm talking about the Insurrection Act and National Guard.
I'm saying he does not have, I know what you're talking about. He does not have the legal authority to do it. In fact, troops do not have policing power. They're not even trained to do that. So understand what this president is provoking. He is provoking on sending federal troops, the National Guard, into cities to plunder them, though those entities do not have policing power. So they can't even do the very thing that he claims that he wants them to do. You talk about incompetence. Look, I taught 7th grade. In Chicago, 7th graders have to pass the Constitution. I taught it. This president could use a 7th grade class right now to understand the basics of the Constitution. And so it's incumbent upon all of us as we literally watch this man shred the Constitution in front of us, taking not only a tyrannical approach, an authoritarianism approach towards governance, is doing it with no resistance from his own party. And I'm grateful that there are Democrats around the country and even reasonable Republicans who recognize that he is a threat to our democracy. You all have heard me speak of this before. I've said this for the last couple of years. The extreme right in this country wants a rematch of the Civil War. His own mentor, President Andrew Jackson, is how he is modeling his behavior. The Trail of Tears, right? Snatching people off of their land, a war on poor people. He is one of the biggest threats to humanity that we've seen in an entire generation. And as mayor of the city of Chicago, and as someone who understands the premise of our Constitution, we are justified in our resistance to his authoritarianism.
Mayor Johnson, I apologize. A couple of weeks ago, I asked you if you would cooperate with ICE if your wife Stacy's body was.
Hey, we just got to get to the question. There's no time for
I'm
this.
making an apology. And,
Yeah, but everyone else has questions too, so we got to keep
and
moving.
if it was your wife Stacy's body that had been
All right.
concealed and abused by Jose Luis Mendoza Gonzalez, the illegal alien, you said that you felt threatened by the question, that it scared you, and I do apologize. Over the weekend, President Trump said that you were incompetent, called you an incompetent mayor, called you an incompetent man.
He just addressed this.
1,000+ violent teenagers rampaged through your neighborhood, your adopted neighborhood of Austin, that you and your wife Stacey moved into from Elgin, and assaulted police officers, multiple shootings.
All right, we need
a
the
woman
question.
was shot in the back multiple times, who sadly passed.
William.
My question to you is simply this: do you, your neighbors in Austin, do contact me and they tell me that they don't feel threatened by my questions. They feel threatened by your anti-curfew policies that are leading to these out-of-control, violent teenagers
Thank you.
murdering, apparently murdering people.
Thanks, William. All right.
What do you say to your neighbors? What do you say to those neighbors in Austin who feel threatened by your policies?
Thank you for staying awake during our presentation. I know you have worked hard to get the necessary help that's needed, and whatever condition in which that you are dealing with, I'm glad that you are getting some help. So that means a lot to me.
Is that honestly your answer to your neighbors who have been, a neighbor of yours was shot in the back multiple?
Yeah, and so we are addressing community safety. That's my top priority, and we will continue to do that. Do
Thank
you have
you.
a follow-up?
Thank you, William.
All right.
We're going to go to Justin here.
All right,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
You're the one.
Thank you.
Let's move on, please.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, William.
Who is not keeping the people of Chicago safe.
All right, we're going to go to the next question. Thanks.
What do you say to Donald Trump? How did you feel when Donald Trump called you incompetent? What did you feel?
All right, he just addressed this. Thanks.
Please answer that question, if you would.
Okay, fine. Since you are begging, I do believe that Donald Trump is intimidated. I know, I think you're
Okay,
begging.
no interruptions.
So let me just answer that. I do appreciate you begging. So I would just say it like this, that the president has always been intimidated by the intellectual prowess of black men. And so of course he would speak in those petite and puerile terms because he's small.
Thanks.
Right.
Here's Justin.
Hi, Mayor. My understanding is your administration has reached a, tentative agreement with the firefighters union. Can you confirm that? Can you provide any details? Does it? I assume it includes back pay, similar raises to the FOP contract.
Yes, we have worked hard to get this deal done. Obviously, that there are still some steps that have to be taken in order for this to be finalized. And, you know, since taking office, we've landed dozens and dozens of contracts. This one was important to me, and I'm glad that we are moving forward. I've said from the very beginning that part of the agreement would include, and we've budgeted for, Backpay. And there are some other, elements within the tentative agreement that I believe places us in a stronger position to build a safe and affordable big city. But I'm grateful to, my team as well as Local 2 for staying at the table and working tirelessly to come to an agreement tentatively that meets the expectations and standards of working people in the city.
I'm going to work two into this follow-up. When you describe additional steps, you just mean like the logistical ratification city council
Absolutely,
approval, right?
that's right,
Okay.
right. Because I know people pay more attention to the ratification of the teacher's contract, but there is also a similar process that the CFD goes through as well.
And then on the back pay, obviously that process has to play out. And I know that you budgeted for, I don't know if you budgeted the full amount in the 2025 budget or close to it. Do you anticipate that that cost will be a 2025 cost, or will that be pushed to 2026?
That's a good question. We have budgeted the back pay for the duration of the contract, right? So in terms of the logistics of how that back pay is handled, I can get you those specifics, but no, we have budgeted the last two budgets to ensure that once the agreement was ratified, that there would be no disruption in, our first responders' pay.
Good morning, Mayor.
Good morning.
Regarding the Anjanette Young ordinance, Alderwoman Haddon and Ms. Young say that Chicago police do not support the latest version that adds a 30-second wait period for warrants. Is this your understanding of Superintendent Snelling's position? And how will you shore up enough support without his backing?
There are some concerns that the superintendent has raised. We're going to continue to work through this process. And, the most important thing, though, that I know that the superintendent is committed to, and this is my commitment, is to work to make sure that that trauma that Ms. Anjanette Young experienced, that doesn't happen, again. And I commend, Anjanette Young for her steadfastness and commitment to ensuring that this ordinance not only sees the light of day, but it actually becomes law.
Is banning no-knock warrants still part of your agenda in the future?
Well, look, I can say that I've made it very clear that, that interaction was very troubling and revealing. The ultimate goal is to make sure that, these warrants are executed properly, right? And that we don't put, people in harm's way. But we also want to make sure that our police department have the tools that they need to continue to drive, my vision for the city, which is to build a safe and an affordable one. So it's an ongoing conversation. I mean, these reforms and transformations certainly don't come easily, but it doesn't stop us or prevent us or curtail us, quite frankly, from pursuing justice. So thank you for those questions.
Hey, Mayor.
Hey.
When you sought candidates to fill the 35th Ward vacancy, you listed relevant government experience as a qualification. That isn't listed in the outline for your 27th Ward committee. Why did you remove it, and is that an effort to clear the way for Alderman Burnett's son, Red?
Well, so it's my responsibility to make sure that the committee is formed. The committee establishes its expectations for the particular ward that has the vacancy, right? So for instance, you may have also noticed that the 35th Ward Committee made Spanish speaking as a requirement. You don't see that in the 27th Ward's Committee, right? And I'm going to just draw a conclusion here. It has more to do with the fact that the makeup of the particular ward, right? So again, the committee will establish criteria based upon the needs of those communities that are reflected in those particular wards. I don't micromanage to that extent where I put forth a blanket uniformed requirement, because the city of Chicago is far more diverse and you need more of an eloquent process, and that's essentially what's playing out.
And switching beats a bit, you talked earlier about how you don't believe that Donald Trump has the right to send the National Guard here. But what are your plans if the president moves ahead on such plans to try to have a police force of some kind in Chicago from the national government. How are you, is it just court action? Like, what are you planning to do if that happens?
Well, look, the governor and I, we're on the same page here, right? And so, legal action, will be on the table. But I want to make something perfectly clear. These individuals are not being sent to cities to police cities because they're not trained to police. These are soldiers. They don't go through the training that our police officers go through. In fact, it is quite hypocritical on the part of the president to even suggest such a move, and it is destabilizing for the city of Washington, D.C. Look, crime is down in Chicago. Crime is down. There is more work for us to do. But, he wasn't adamant about ensuring that the $830 million of funding that he took away from community violence prevention and intervention. These are individuals that are on the front line in these particular communities, preventing crime, preventing retaliation from taking place, building relationships. I know these individuals. I sit with them. We spend time with them. Deputy Mayor Gatewood. We're on constant calls with these individuals that are literally on the front line to keep our community safe. And, this president's approach is I wish it were just a joke. He's one, but it's antithetical to what we're actually working to accomplish here. And you're seeing the results all over the country. Brandon Scott, Randall Woodfin, Mayor Bowser, Mayor Johnson in Milwaukee. 30% reduction in homicides just this year alone in the city of Chicago. 40% reduction in shootings and shooting victims. These are individuals who are on the front line, the money that he took to give to the ultra rich, that are preventing violence from taking place. He's exacerbating the problem here. Again, running amok around this country, shredding our Constitution. He's dangerous. We have seen this before. And inch by inch, he continues to see what he will get away with. I appreciate the question, I really do, because I'm going to stand firm in my defense of our city. And we need more people raising their voices against someone who is trampling over the very Constitution that we helped form and build and reform. I know my history. We don't get to Chicago just simply because we were just walking around aimlessly. We're talking about my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law was a sharecropper. That's barely a generation removed from slavery. We built this country. We fought for a country that didn't see us as a full human being. This man is beyond the tyranny that we see around the world. Because the tyranny that we're seeing around the world, in many instances, their Constitution permits it. Our Constitution was built and designed to provide checks and balance. There are certainly no checks to this president right now, except for the cities that are fighting to uphold our humanity and our democracy. And there's certainly no balance to him. I have never seen a president more off than Donald Trump. Just off the rockers. So this is not just about Mayor Brandon Johnson in this moment. This is about one nation. That he is working overtime to divide and conquer. He said it. Take him at his word. As off as he is, take him at his word. I am, And I'm going to fight and do everything in my power to make sure that we protect the sanctity of a democracy that did not even want to see me. And if I can fight that hard for a democracy of which my ancestors built this country, if I can fight that hard for this democracy, everybody else has to lean in as well.
Hi, Mayor.
Hi.
I have a follow-up to that, actually, and then my own question. Have you looked into what power, if any, local police officers have to deny federal agents entry to public spaces in Chicago when they do not have a warrant? And is that something you would consider?
Well, in terms of federal agents that are ICE agents, there's the welcoming city ordinance protects against that. Without a warrant, a criminal warrant, they really do not have that authority, right? Now, here's the thing. I just spent time with, our federal agents who are working hard in coordination to drive violence down in the city of Chicago. Just last week, you may have seen the announcement where we recovered, how many guns did we recover?
It's around 140.
Over 140 guns. And let me just tell you, it's sickening, the type of weaponry that's moving through the streets of Chicago. I mean, we're talking about, high-powered rifles, machine guns, illegally, coming from a couple of places. Indiana is one. That's a big one. Mississippi, I believe, is another one. I mean, you have gun traffickers that are coordinating with individuals in the city of Chicago to bring illegal guns through here. And there are levels of coordination that work to prevent that or disrupt it. So as far as that level of coordination, it's necessary, right? What we don't want is the enforcement, if you will, of immigration policy to be the responsibility of local police officers. That is, again, antithetical to what we're accomplishing in the city of Chicago.
On CPS, can you confirm whether the district is making the $175 million pension payment?
Well, it's certainly the expectation. That's the expectation.
Have you heard otherwise from school district leaders?
Look, I know there are, some individuals that, are concerned about, how we balance this budget. What I can say is this: the District 299, Chicago Public Schools, is moving and graduating towards full independence as we work to disentangle the elements of the relationship and how schools are funded. This is the inevitable direction that we're going into. Right now, the city of Chicago, we subsidize conservatively about $1 billion of support for our public education system, which obviously I believe in it. And this is also why, the conversation about how we work collaboratively to ensure that $1.6 billion, check this out, if we actually had the $1.6 billion a fully funded school district from the state of Illinois, the district will be in a surplus. Like this, there is a very clear, stark element here that school districts around America are woefully underfunded. And the President of the United States of America has obviously declared war on poor people. And so that's why it's necessary for us in this moment to use all of our tools and strategies to ensure that working people do not get harmed by, the Trump administration. Thank you.
Good morning, Mayor.
Good morning.
It's been about 7 months since the CTA has had a permanent leader, and meanwhile the fiscal cliff approaches. When are you going to appoint a permanent leader of that agency, and why has it not happened yet?
Yeah, well, look, our interim CEO has, handled this moment well, right? And there are obviously many different stakeholders that are committed to ensuring that our public transportation system is fully funded. We will, continue to seek out the best and the brightest for permanency, but this interim has not disrupted our collective work to ensure that our transportation system is fully funded.
And it's been about 4 months, maybe Deputy Mayor would weigh on this, since the RFPs were due for a gunshot detection technology replacement of ShotSpotter. Is that process still happening? Have you identified a candidate to, work with and contract with for gunshot detection technology?
Well, let me just first of all say, yes, that process is still underway, and it's evident that what we've said all along, that that particular form of technology did not necessarily lead to safer communities. Look, I get why people are asking about it. I do. I understand. And we have never been opposed to technology. We just have to do the things that actually work. We've seen that even in the neighborhoods where violence has been pervasive and where that particular detection was there, we've seen significant drop in shootings, shooting victims, and homicides. So that process is still going through a procurement. As you know, the process can be cumbersome, right? And the last time this detection was brought forward, I don't believe it went through a process. It just showed up, right? So we're doing things a little differently. Thank you.
Good morning, Mayor. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I know that you already talked about this, but
Yeah.
according to the Constitution, just governors have the power to deploy the National Guard. It already happened in California. So my question is, I would like to know if you can be more specific about your conversations that you mentioned that you just had with Governor Pritzker. Can the Illinois National Guard refuse to follow a presidential order, or have you asked, or your administration asked them to inform you in case that they're activated by the president?
Well, let me just be very clear. I have not spoken to the governor within the last 24 hours about what just happened. What I referenced was, and this is where we are aligned, that the authority that he is asserting, he doesn't have it. He doesn't. And so
He already have done it in California.
and I'm saying he doesn't have the authority, right? And he's done a lot of things that he doesn't have the authority to do. That's my larger point, that we have to take that seriously. And when I say whether it's legal action or just more voices rising up in this moment, calling out the pharisaical approach that this president is taking, that's incumbent upon all of us, right? You know, none of us can afford to stand idle. This is why I've worked hard to make sure that we're protecting our immigrant community, right? We were sued by the federal government on our standing and our position. And, you know, the courts rejected his suit, right? But we've also have put forth policy to ensure that families are supported and protected. It's going to take all of that, right? And these are unprecedented times. I just hope that we cover it in a way in which it deserves, quite frankly, that it is beyond a boldness. It's a, do you know how when like ignorant people do stuff and say stuff and there's no convincing to them of why they're ignorant? That's Donald Trump. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, and another follow-up question regarding, we have sources that inform us that you request $200 million loan for CPS. What will happen if the interim CEO or the future CEO of CPS refuse to do that loan?
We're either going to cut or invest. Those are our options right now. I want a fully funded public education system. Parents around the city want that. They're advocating for it. They're also advocating for $1.6 billion that the state of Illinois rightfully owes the children of this city. We're talking 87%, 90% of them are children of color. We're talking about 47% of the school district, I believe, is Latinx. 33, 34% are black. How much more are we going to continue to take from black and brown people? How much more? How much more can black and brown people tolerate in terms of things being snatched away from them? Now, we already got to deal with, you know, President Trump's attack against black and brown people. He's so angry with me, he don't even want me to hire black and brown people. You understand? And so all I'm simply saying is we have taken so much as government from black, brown, and poor people. He's taken away food. and medicine. He's cutting services to veterans. He's literally taking the wealth of this country and placing it into the hands of the few. All I'm really trying to offer here is that I understand that people want to focus on $200 million. If ESSER were to be extended, we would have a surplus right now. That's our collective struggle in this moment. This is about the long-term solvency and sustainability of a school district that overwhelmingly services working people, overwhelmingly brown and black people. And as mayor of the city of Chicago, and one of the main reasons why I ran for this position is because I want to make sure that brown and black folks, black and brown folks, working people in this city don't have to suffer under very hostile circumstances. Thank you for that question. Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, one more topic. The Chicago Bears. They said
They're in first place right now, I understand.
a tie is a tie.
The tie is a tie.
But they gave us the clearest indication yet that they plan to pack their bags and move to Arlington Heights, hoping to break ground on a new stadium by the end of the year. Your thoughts on that? Is the process over in your mind? Should Chicago start looking for new tenants for Soldier Field?
Well, look, I've made it clear from the very beginning. You know, my focus has primarily been on making sure that our education system is fully funded, our public transportation system is fully funded, that we are securing progressive revenue. I mean, we have gone as far as to say that if the state of Illinois is reticent to moving on certain progressive revenue ideas, provide home rule authority so that we can address it, right? I mean, if you look at just the local government distributive fund, I mean, we've lost millions of dollars because of the way the configuration has favored the state of Illinois to be able to capture those dollars. Same thing with the personal property replacement tax, PPRT. We're talking about millions of dollars. Just those two elements alone have reduced our share of the pie, right? But there are ways in which local government, I'm willing to put forth the ordinance or policy that allows for, again, 127,000 millionaires, 100 millionaires, 25 billionaires, right? We have essentially people in the city of Chicago, state of Illinois, that are virtually paying no taxes, right? And so that's where my focus has been. Now, as far as the Bears are concerned, look, there's no secret that I believe they belong in the city of Chicago. Now, there are some hurdles that they have to still go through in Arlington Heights, right? I'm always going to be honest. I believe their best efforts should concentrate on the lakefront. And why wouldn't they? I mean, think about the economic boom and growth that we're experiencing in the city of Chicago right now. You know, we've had record-breaking days in our airports. Population growth, hotel occupancy has gone up. Ridership on our CTA continues to go up. $20 billion of tourism dollars coming to the city of Chicago. Violent crime continues to go down. I mean, Joe Mansueto, believes in our vision for the city of Chicago. The All-Star game, Major League Baseball All-Star game, coming to Chicago. There's great confidence in our economy right now. So, look, I think the McCaskey family has done, great work, over the course of, 100 years in this city. They belong in the city of Chicago. They really do. And I actually believe that most people believe that. But, that's a decision that they will ultimately have to make. But there's not the clearest path for them. They still have some asks of Springfield. Again, my focus, progressive revenue, education and transportation. And of course, my door is always open though.
One of your predecessors once said that if they ever moved to Arlington Heights, he wouldn't let them call themselves the Chicago Bears. How do you feel about that?
Now look, I'm going to offer up some breaking news here. Richard J. Daley and I agree on that. All right.
Good. Yeah, still morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
So it seems like with Mr. Trump, like my late father used to say, you're wasting a lot of time trying to convince a damn fool against his will.
Well stated to your
Thank my
family,
father.
to your late father. All right.
So my first question, like their suburban counterparts, certain of your youth hirees for your One Summer program are saying they have yet to get the last of their paychecks. This while certain new police recruits are saying that they have yet to get their pay from training. And while certain collective bargaining agreement employees have yet to get their COVID pay. So pretty much what's up with the mozzarella fella?
You're the only person who can get me to break character. All right. Well, let me just try to run through those quickly. So as far as the police officers, a technical matter that has been rectified, right? So that's thing one. As far as COVID pay and the agreement around, you're referring to an agreement with our 911 dispatchers. We have, reached an agreement there, and so that will be settled, just like what we did with local to our fire department. So their back pay will be taken care of as well. As far as youth employment, I'll have to look into that one. My understanding is, everything closed out well, but I will verify to make sure that if there's a particular organization that you are aware of, if you can leave that information with the gentleman that's standing over to your right, we can get a response to that.
Okay. This next question deals with Walter Burnett, and there is so much messiness attached to it. I'm just going to try to bundle it as much as I can and let you untangle it. So it's come to our attention that apparently your office put out a letter to HUD asking that he be put back on the table as far as CHA CEO after a meeting with HUD officials 2 weeks ago where allegedly, and I say allegedly because I wasn't there, you all agreed that he would be taken off the table, one, because of this, 1 year rule, and two, because there was so much pushback that the Trump administration and HUD did not want any parts of.
Well, let me just say, Alderman Burnett is still in contention to lead CHA, and those conversations have been had about how this rule applies or does not apply. Our understanding as our Department of Law digs through this in earnest. Our understanding thus far indicates that he is qualified and not out of contention to be able to, if the board agrees, to lead the CHA. But it is, you're right, there's a very complex entanglement there, but as our Department of Law unpacks it and works with HUD, our initial indication is that as convoluted as this element is, it does not preclude him, if the board, CHA board agrees, to lead CHA. All right, thank you.
And wait a minute, one question on behalf of Prosperity. Wait a minute, this is very important. One question on behalf of Prosperity, who couldn't be here today, but noticed something, and her question is, what is the CPD's relationship with ICE ahead of this Trump threat? Because she said yesterday she was at a police, wait a minute, she was at a police station and she noticed some mass people going back and forth between the parking lot and the police station.
So again, we collaborate with federal agents on a number of issues, particularly around guns being trafficked through our city, which is quite severe, human trafficking. But there is no coordination with federal ICE agents and the Chicago Police Department. We are a welcoming city ordinance, and we will maintain that status.
I think we're going to end this with a follow-up. Surprise. Hi, Mayor.
Hi.
On the Bears, Rep. Cam Buckner says Springfield should not give the Bears a property tax break now that their eyes are on Arlington Heights. What are your thoughts on that specifically?
Look, I think that there's been some alignment around what the expectation should be from the Bears, which I've always said they have to put as much skin in the game as possible. And as far as the Chicago proposal, the proposal was, $2.2 billion, I believe. So 72%, 75% of the stadium would be paid for by the Bears. They would rectify and deal with the $600 million that's still owed on the current stadium, and that we would own it. The city of Chicago would own it, right? And furthermore, what they were asking for, which all franchise asks for, ISFA dollars, which are state-controlled dollars that are designed to build stadiums. That's the only thing that they do. So essentially, the stadium in Chicago would be financed 75% by the Bears, and the other 25% by visitors, essentially, because the ISFA revenue is generated from the hotel tax. To your colleague's question, it's why I've said, I don't have, those levers, right, as the state does in terms of how they could approach the Bears in this situation. Now, I know that they're going to need infrastructure dollars, whether they are in Chicago or Arlington Heights. What's interesting enough, though, is that the infrastructure dollars that are being asked for in Arlington Heights would require what you just described, versus in Chicago, that requirement is unnecessary. In fact, that entire campus, from the Obama Center all the way to Navy Pier, everybody agrees that infrastructure dollars there are a worthwhile investment because it allows for traffic to be able to move better in a more efficient way. Again, I try not to get into the responsibility and duty of, state reps and state senators. All I'm simply saying is that the proposal in Chicago, there's a lot of benefit to that proposal, right? We're talking about thousands of construction jobs, literally thousands of construction jobs. I believe it's estimated about $8 billion of income that would be generated from this project. So, again, I know the Bears are committed to, their fan base, and, my door will remain open. All right, did we get through all of them? All right, well done, you all. Nice job. Thank you.
More GPS.